You know how you guys know how I said in my last Saw review that I thought this movie was just okay, that I thought that this franchise was just decent. Well, I stand by that. But doesn't mean I don't like anything from this franchise. In fact, this one I end up actually do liking. So, what's up? What's happening? What's going to be? Welcome back to the Anime Station. No such as a brain theme animation, including some live action every once in a while. Welcome back to our second installment of Saw-Tember, and welcome to Saw 2. This is a pretty good one. Like, it's a pretty good sequel, it's a pretty good horror film, it's just a pretty good movie in general. It took everything that I was complaining about with the first movie, fixed most of it, and also gave us something much more unique, much more interesting, and much more, you know, entertaining. That's the word, entertaining. Out of just the kills being better. The kills are much better in this movie. And then we also have much more creative traps. The acting's a lot better. The characters are way better. Like, everyone doubled down and really went in on this movie. And it shows in a really good way. This is one of the highest grossing of the franchise, and I believe it's the highest grossing domestically of the franchise to date. And I can see why. It's a pretty good movie. I can't say it's an amazing movie, absolutely not. I can't say it's a great movie, but I feel like we're gonna find that great Saw movie if we dig down deep enough. So, with all that said, here's just my basic overall thoughts before we get to the written review. I like Amanda. I think she's a really cool character. I love the twist with her towards the end of the movie. We get Tobin Bell for the entire movie as Jigsaw, which is a huge plus because even though he had just a very little part in the first film, he stole the show. And here he absolutely steals the show again, but this time even more so with an iconic performance that kind of puts you in the horror movie Hall of Fame. It is a great performance from Tobin Bell. I'm not the biggest fan of Jigsaw's actual character and the extremely complicated, very cynical philosophy that he embodies, but as performance-wise, he does an amazing job. And then we also have a much better cast here. We have one of the Wahlbergs in this movie, which usually is something that would make my eyes roll because I'm not a big fan of them. I don't hate them by any means, but I'm just sick and tired of hearing about them sometimes. But here, he gives a good performance. I don't think Matthews is an amazing character. I think all the cops in this movie, aside from maybe Carrie, are extremely boring. But that's just my own personal taste. I just felt like it could have been better. But as it is, it's still pretty good, pretty solid. The kills are much better in this film. Most of them are on screen. They're not super graphic, but they're still pretty bloody, and they are very brutal. And the traps themselves are super creative. I forgot to point this out in my first review, and I apologize. I really liked the reverse bear trap from the first movie. I mean, that's the most iconic trap of the whole franchise, undoubtedly. But I feel like the traps in this movie are on par with that first trap, with the exception of the stupid boiler room trap. Like, really, no one should have died from that. There was a literal devil right there on the back of the wall, and if you just went in a little bit, you could have seen the devil and turn that little knob so you didn't burn to death. But, people be stupid, people be desperate, and that's just what happens. So, yeah, there's that. Um, Here's the thing about the first movie. Outside of the reverse bear trap, the other traps were okay. They were fine. They weren't really standout. Here, there's some pretty big standout ones. I love the Venus flytrap in the beginning. That's a great way to open your movie. And then I think the nerve gas house is way better than the poop room. I'm not going to say the actual word because this is still somewhat of a family-friendly channel, despite me covering some R-rated content. So, just making that clear. And again, the characters are better. Pretty much everything is better here. My only complaints are, well, a few little minor ones, but as it is, pretty good movie. Pretty good movie and a pretty good sequel that manages to take everything that made the first movie decent, amplifies it into actually making it good, but also having a little bit of the baggage still left over from the first movie. What do I mean by that? Well, let's get to my written review now that I've yapped for 5 minutes. So, here is my written review for Saw 2. Good story, much better acting. Look, seriously, the acting in this movie is Oscar-worthy compared to the very not good acting from the first movie. Good brutal kills. Kills are much better in this movie. Another great final act twist. Again, another great one that you will not see coming. Creative traps, solid writing. Not great writing, but solid enough. It works. A much better trap plot. Like, seriously, it's better than being stuck in the freaking bathroom because there's actual variety in the setting through all the different rooms they go through. A decent pace. It's not as slow as the first movie. It's not agonizingly slow. But it is still a little slow, but it's for the story it's trying to tell, and it makes sense for it to be slow. So, yeah, it's not like super, super slow like it was in the first movie, but it's still slow, but it's at least consistent. So I'm going to call it decent. Good runtime, a very scary secondary antagonist. Like, I'm not going to say who it is because that's a spoiler, but there is a secondary antagonist in this movie, and he is very frightening, very scary, and very, very merciless. So, yeah, pretty good. Good suspense, decent scares, and good rewatchability. I'm not going to say it's high rewatchability, but it's good rewatchability. Like the one that, like, oh, I get to watch this one now? Sweet, let's watch it. I remember liking this one. You know, that kind of rewatchability, where you're going through the series, and this is the one you remember liking. Like, oh, I'm excited to watch this one. I sat through the, just decent enough first one. Now this second one, I remember being much better. Let's watch it again. And that's what happens. So, yeah, I have a lot of positivity for Saw 2. However, there's still some problems. The plot is still a bit confusing, and it's only going to get worse as we keep falling down this rabbit hole. The cop characters are boring. Like, aside from Carrie, who is the one good character in this movie, the rest of the characters are extremely boring. Like, the actors give a good performance, but man, the cops in this movie are boring. The dialogue is not great and feels way too philosophical. Pretty much every word out of Jigsaw's mouth. Like, Tobin Bell is giving it his all, absolutely, but every word out of his mouth is condescending. Condescending, and it can get a bit much. There's still some generic jump scares. You're always going to have those in those kind of movies. And the editing is, while better, still not very good. The editing in this movie is still a problem, and it's not like a super deal-breaking problem. It's just a problem that's noticeable. Again, baggage from the first movie. It still has that really choppy, amateur-like editing, even though it is a little bit better here, just by a small little tad. Overall, this is a pretty good sequel. It's still not quite great, but it's much more entertaining than the first and does take steps forward to improve. I can easily recommend this one for horror fans and people rewatching through the Saw movies. It's a pretty good horror film and a very good sequel. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this movie. It's not a great movie, but it is a pretty good movie, it's an entertaining movie, and it's a pretty good sequel. It took a franchise that I wasn't really the biggest fan of, and managed to actually maybe get me interested to see how this all unfolds by the end. So, yeah, because of that, I think I'm going to give Saw 2 a pretty decently high final verdict of a strong 7 out of 10. Pretty good movie. Check it out if you haven't already. Even if you're not a fan of the first one, trust me, this second one is more than worth your time. How will Saw 3 turn out? Well, we'll find out later today. But as for now, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Jack Small of Animation Station. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time when we dive into the sagas of Dragon Ball with the Emperor Pilaf saga. Peace out, guys. See you for that review.